Hello everyone, so excited to finally start filming this video. It has been a long time coming and I have put it off for a really long time, but I feel like I'm finally in a really great place to film it and start working on this project that I've had in my head for a really long time. And just so excited to begin sharing it with you, and I am super open to so many suggestions about what people are looking to see and hear from me with this. I also have a lot of ideas, and once I kind of hammer out those to a more finalized detail level, I will update everybody about that. But I've got some really cool stuff that I am planning on starting in the future. As a quick word of warning, it is super hot in my apartment right now, so I have the window open, so if you hear any random dumb sounds, it will be stuff from outside. I'm sorry about that. There is so much bad information everywhere. The internet, books, employees at stores that just don't really give great information, and there's a lot of societal norms that we have just kind of come to accept that are not adequate, and I have a lot of problems with them. However, I'm going to do my best to not focus on the negative aspects of it, but more focus on the positive stuff and to try and create a positive space that is backed up by facts and the knowledge base that I have, as well as those I respect and sources that I respect. So with that said, this video is going to be on the care of one of my absolute favorite animals in the entire world, which are crested geckos. I have been keeping these since I was quite young. They were one of the first reptiles that I've ever had and kept, and I've also succeeded in breeding them as well. And the reason that I want to talk about them specifically is because not only do I think they make the best starter reptile for anybody looking to get into it, but I also think that they make one of the best animals for somebody my age and my situation, namely like a university student or somebody who is around university student age, and why I think they make great pets for people like us compared to a lot of other animals specifically. But first, I'm going to introduce you to my two current crested geckos. So the first one we have here, this is Pepper. Pepper is my female. She is a dark brown color on the sides with a kind of beigey cream color on top, and she's got really nice bright full pinstripes down her back, which is kind of difficult to see, but she's really pretty and she's got a lot of really nice Dalmatian spots on her, and she's a really nice weight. She's also currently gravid. So her and my male have been producing eggs for 2 months now. I have 2 sets of eggs that are currently incubating, and we'll get into that as well. But so she's currently laying eggs, and I'm really excited to see what the babies look like. Now, this is my male. This is Jack. I've had him for significantly longer than I've had Pepper. He's been with me since I was in second year, so that would be, gosh, four years ago? I don't know. But he looks very different. He's a nice bright yellow color. He's really fired down right now because I woke him up and he was asleep, and he's not super happy about it. Jack has had some interesting, not complications, but some interesting behavioral patterns that he tends to just stop eating sometimes, and he'll lose weight and then he puts it back on. I just think it's around the time of year that he's just kind of confused as to the temperature and the pressures that have been happening just with our winter here. So it's not something I've been concerned about, but trying to get him to put back on some weight, so giving him some nice juicy meals that will help him put some weight back on. So I put them away because I have a hard time talking while I'm holding them because they're a little jumpy. So these geckos come from the family Diplodactylidae, and I had to write that down because it's very long. And the scientific name for them is Correlophus ciliatus. Now, their taxonomy has changed in recent years. They used to be part of the genus Rhacodactylus, which includes the gargoyle gecko as well as the Leachianus gecko, the Leachianus being the largest species of gecko in the entire world. Now, they have been changed to their own genus, and there's a lot of complex reasons for that I'm not going to bother getting into. Just know that they are not as closely related to those other two species as they once thought they were. So if you see that they are labeled as Rhacodactylus ciliatus, that is what the nomenclature had been for a very long time. The proper terminology now is Correlophus ciliatus. So these geckos, as well as the others mentioned, come from an island group called New Caledonia, which is on the northeastern coast of Australia. A fun fact about them is that they host the richest diversity in the world per square kilometer, and this is caused from a central mountain chain on the largest island that creates a lot of interesting ecological niches where animals can thrive and fill up different areas of the environment to suit their particular needs. So these geckos, what they look like essentially is they're a smaller species of lizard. They get about 5-6 inches in total body length, and the reason that they're called crested geckos is because they have very nice crests on their head that form a diamond shape, and the males use these to display, so they're typically a bit bigger, and they will actually grab onto them when they're breeding with females. They will like bite onto the crests. But it also kind of gives them protection. It protects their eyes because crested geckos don't actually have eyelids. So in order for them to keep their eyes wet, they actually have to lick it. They will stick their tongue out and slap it against their eye, and they will slap the other eye afterwards to keep them nice and wet. The reason that they have this is because they're in a protected forest, so they don't have a lot of detritus or things that will get into their eyes, and it helps with their vision because they are very much a sight-based predator. They're also nocturnal, so they need to have these really, really big eyes to be able to see things in the dark. In the hobby, we have been able to line breed and genetically breed so many different color variations, patterns, different traits that we're looking for. So in order to tell the differences between the males and females, you kind of have to wait until they're a certain age. This is typically about a year old. However, it can vary from anywhere from about 6 months to a year, year and a half, depending on size, how much they're getting fed, other environmental conditions. And the easiest way to tell without being crude is that you can basically lift the male up and you will look near his vent, and you will see two bulges that look like balls. But they're not balls, they are the pockets for his hemipenes. And if you didn't know, crested geckos, as well as a number of other lizards and snakes, have 2 penises, but they're called hemipenes. So instead of having just one, they have 2. And the reason for this is so that they can mount the female on either side and still be able to mate with them. So they have 2. So on top of also having no eyelids, these geckos also have an amazing set of toes. Their feet don't bend like ours do, or their feet don't bend like our hands do. Our hands bend like this. Their hands actually bend like this, so their toes will bend upwards. They have little claws on the end of them, which help them grip to trees and other surfaces to help them climb. But what's even cooler about them is that on their toes, each of them has a little pad on them. Now, these are different than frog pads. They're not suction cups. Each of those pads has tiny, tiny little hairs all over them, and they create a force very similar to static electricity. In fact, using what's called van der Waals forces, which is the differential charge within each atom. It's a very complicated process, but just know that they're basically just using electrical forces and electrical differences to stick themselves to flat surfaces. Now, talking about enclosure and enclosure sizes, the absolute minimum size for an adult crested gecko that is very widely accepted among people is a 12 by 12 by 18 inch high enclosure. This is a very standard size. There's a lot of different options for this, but it's most important to have the height. The height is important because these animals are arboreal. That means that they live in the trees and they like to live high up. So they won't really use the floor space much. Mine actually do. They love exploring along the ground. They will also dig through it sometimes, but the most important part is to have it up high. That's where they like to hide and that's where they feel safest. So this is the minimum size for one crested gecko, and this is the way that I personally recommend keeping them. That is not to say that you can't have them in a larger enclosure. In fact, my male, Jack, he is in a larger enclosure. He is in an 18 by 18 by 24, and that's just because that's the original enclosure I had for him and what I found at the time, and it has been working out really well. It gives me lots of places to design it, and it's given me some really cool design thoughts. These animals make for great university pets because of this one particular reason to me, in that they actually don't require any bugs, any insects, anything that is live to eat. They simply eat a powder that you mix with water and that you change every day or every other day. They don't eat crickets, they don't eat mealworms. They can, but they don't have to. This meal replacement powder, as long as you're getting it from a reputable company, which we'll go over, these companies are typically the ones that I like to use, Repashy or Pangea. Those are the two that are the most widely accepted. I have personally been keeping mine on Repashy. It's just what's available to me really easily, and it's been working out great so far. But there are lots of other options, and like I said, you can feed them bugs. I do occasionally feed mine bugs because it's fun to watch them hunt them, and also I just like to kind of mix things up. Variety is important, but it's not necessary. And the meal replacement powder has all of the nutritional and dietary needs that these geckos require. It's basically a mixture of fruits, nectar, as well as insect protein and all of other vitamins and minerals that they will require for their optimal health. For water, these geckos, I have never personally seen them drink out of a water dish before. I used to provide one all the time. I don't anymore because I have just found that they never used it. What they will actually do is they will drink the water droplets that are left on their enclosure sides as well as on any of the decor items. So what this means is that you have to mist them. I mist mine every night or every other night depending on how humid it is. Sometimes because I live in such a humid part of the world, I don't have to mist them for like 3 days. I will give them a very light misting so that they can drink, but I won't heavily mist to increase the humidity. So humidity is also very important. That is where they thrive in humid conditions. So I try to aim for about a 70, 75, 80 around their range. It's also okay if it fluctuates a little bit, if it goes up to 90, as long as it doesn't stay there for very long. It's fine. However, I have tried to make mine consistently at about 70, 75 as best I can. It's difficult again where I live, but I do my best to keep it at around that humidity. However, once they are adult sizes, they are really hardy in terms of that. As long as it doesn't drop below 65 and doesn't stay at 90 for an extended period of time, more than a couple of days, you won't have a problem. And any of the water droplets that are on the glass or on any of the plants and stuff, they will drink, which is also why it's great to mist them at night versus in the morning or during the day. That's when they will be active because, like I said, these animals are nocturnal, which means that they're active during the night. Now, in terms of enclosure basics, you are going to want to put coconut fiber on the bottom as the substrate. This is just what I have found works the best. It holds humidity really well. It doesn't go bad at all. I have never really experienced any molding with mine. As long as you are maintaining it well and you're not over misting, you won't really have issues. Like I said before, these animals are arboreal. They like to live up high. This also means that you will need to provide branches, plants, and other decor items that are up higher. Luckily, these are really easily available. You can buy lots of really cool different plants from pet stores, online, other sources that have suction cups on them that will stick to the sides. Keeping their food up higher is also recommended. There's lots of really great options to have their food dishes stuck to the sides. If your gecko is not eating the food that's on the ground, sometimes they just don't really know to look there, and you just need to put it up higher for them to find it. Now, what also makes these animals super great pets is that they don't require any special heating, unless your house is kept rather cold. Now, they thrive actually at room temperature. Anywhere from about 73 to about 78, you are golden. These geckos actually, surprisingly and counterintuitively, do better at colder temperatures and dealing with colder temperatures than warmer temperatures. So if they have to go down a little bit lower, or if something happens emergency-wise, colder is definitely better than hotter. They're really easy to overheat, which is why I don't recommend ever putting heat lights on them, or if you are, they have to be very, very small, because it is so easy to cook them, like so easy. So if you have to, it'll be a very tiny one, and I would definitely recommend putting it on a timer and monitoring it really, really well. Otherwise, they don't require any special heating. They're fine at that temperature. They also don't require any special lighting. I don't think that there would be any issue or any problem providing it if you wanted. So you can just have an LED light that acts as a daylight, which is what I have, to help keep up their circadian rhythm, which is just their ability to know when they're awake and when they're asleep. Talking about when they're awake, these geckos, because they're nocturnal, they are best to be interacted with at dawn and dusk and kind of in the evenings. That is when they're beginning to slowly wake up, and they won't be as flighty or as jumpy as they would be at night when they're really, really active, and they won't be super lethargic during the day. You can find these guys pretty much everywhere. What is really great is that they have become a big mainstream staple in the reptile hobby. They're really easy to come across from local breeders, expos, specialty stores, and as long as they have been sourced and bred humanely and from a reputable company or person, it's fine to get them from whatever source you deem fit. Just look for really healthy individuals that you know the company and or the person that has bred them is doing everything right and knows what they're doing. That is the most important issue. You want to make sure that you're supporting somebody who is passionate about what they're doing and is producing high quality animals. Now, the last little bit I will go over is some tips and tricks and common kind of problems that may occur. And the first is handling and taming down your gecko. As you saw before, mine are a little bit jumpy. They can be. Pepper is actually, it's very strange. She's not normally as jumpy as she was, and see now she normally sits like this. She's happy to just chill here on my hand and not do anything. You can see she's gotten nice and dark, and she looks super pretty now. Say hello. Oh, and she jumped on the camera. They are actually really, really easy to tame down for the most part. In a very rare cases, they won't, but with repeated handling for short kind of periods of time, you don't want to have them out for too long, especially when they're really jumpy and not used to you. A very simple, easy way is to just hand over hand let them crawl over you. You're basically just like a moving rock, and this is the easiest way to handle them, because they always have something to step up to and it won't let them jump. It's very easy. Once they're about to jump, they'll typically sit like this with their back feet on the same level as their front feet. They push and jump. What they will also do for the most part is they will always try to get as high as possible, which means they like to go up here. They will do their best to climb up your shoulders and onto the top of your head, which is fun, and they will sit right on the top of your head. As long as you're with somebody, this isn't really a problem. It's just fun and a fun little fact about them. I also mentioned it previously, but it will be worth repeating that if you're having trouble with your animal eating, try and have their food up a little bit higher. This will typically solve the issue. They'll know that their food is up there, and you can slowly kind of lower it or have it on the ground, or just put two food dishes in there, one up higher, one up lower, see which they prefer. And the last thing I'm going to go over is why cohabitating crested geckos is bad, even with two females. I have had Cresties in all different setups. I've had a male with two females, I've had two females together, I've even tried having a pair together, not for very long. because I have just noticed that they do so much better when they're kept by themselves. And there's a lot of people that will tell you that having them together is fine. In my experience, even with two females, one of the females will become dominant. She will inevitably gain more weight and eat more than the other one, and it will just not work out, and you'll end up having to split them up afterwards. Which is also why I recommend just getting one to start with. Don't get a pair, don't get two. Just start with one, see how you like it, and if it's working out and you want to get another one, get a separate enclosure for it to try and have them together. And if you decide to buy a male and a female, definitely having separate cages is required. The male will stress the hell out of the female, and she will not be a happy gal, and you don't want that. With that being said, I hope you guys really enjoyed this. I am so excited to finally start this, as well as start my own personal project and website, www.coldbloodedvariety.org. I'll leave a link down in the description below to that website for you to check out. That is going to be my personal resource to give proper animal husbandry techniques with all science-based evidence as best I can where I can find it, with the opinions and evidence of experts in the field as well as experts in their care. I wouldn't consider myself an expert in everything. I would say I'm definitely an advanced hobbyist. I also love to do this. I'm hopefully going to be studying herpetology in my master's, but I'm not an expert. There's still lots that I can learn, which is also why it's important for you to be able to change your information and to understand that information changes, and that as we learn more things about these animals and their care, it's important to change up your husbandry to determine that. So this YouTube channel, where it will lead, again, I have so many really cool ideas about bringing scientific information to the forefront, actually using that degree that I spent 4 years of my life getting to hopefully pique people's interest in science and science-based concepts, as well as respect the opinions of scientists and science-based evidence, because I think it's so important in the current time that we live in to understand why science is so important and why we need to trust those that are experts in their field. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you've made it this far, I cannot express how much I love and care for you. You are what will make me continue doing this, and I hope that it's not too long and that you guys enjoyed it, and I hopefully will see you guys very, very soon. Thanks again. Please, if you can subscribe, I will do my best to upload the next videos as soon as I am physically ready to do them and have some really great ideas down. You won't regret it, I promise. So again, thank you so much. Pepper and Jack say thank you as well, and see you later.